Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Coffee Break Conservation. We are putting together a series of very short little videos on interesting subjects of building conservation related and old building related themes from around the world. And these are little snippets intended that you can just watch them during your coffee break if you so wish. So this particular one today, we're going to be looking at the conservation and repairs to Notre Dame in Paris. Notre Dame was severely damaged by a phenomenal fire in April 2019, and has now been the conservation work has now been complete, and it's open to the public once again. I visited it in March 2025, and I'm going to show you some of those images shortly. So we see here a video montage of clips that have been put online. They're clips of news footage and of personal phone footage that is now a factor of modern life, how news and details can travel around the world in real time. And we see here the fire in progress as it is working its way through the building. Very tragic, very destructive, and it's the complete collapse of the spire which most people would tend to remember when they're thinking about watching these video clips. So I visited it in March 2025, as I've just said, and I wanted to see it for myself, just how the conservation and repairs have been undertaken. And this caught my eye, and I'm not entirely sure that anyone else has reported on this, but I think it's a very interesting observation. This is the pieta, which is at the altar end of the cathedral. It's protected, the whole of the altar end is protected by a metal railing, so you can't actually get in and go very up close. So I took this image with my hand held in between the railings, and I'd like you to look at her right hand. I'm going to show you this image of her right hand, and particularly look at the right thumb. You might notice that it is slightly discolored and it's dusty and soot damaged, and this, I believe, would be the soot dust from the fire in 2019. It's worth questioning then, why was this thumb left, and when the rest of the building, and indeed the rest of this sculpture, has been meticulously cleaned and conserved. So going around the back of the statue, and again putting my hand through the railings and using the zoom on my camera to be able to focus in, we can see here that the rear of her right hand, not just the thumb, is soot damage, and I believe that this is a deliberate memory from the conservators, such that for future generations there is a small little discreet message left of the fire, not just the documented photographs and stories which will have been published. So I think that's beautiful. I really approve of it, and I think it is quite poignant. The immediate aftermath of the fire, heavily photographed and was on news outlets all over the world. We see here this aerial image which shows just the full extent of how it spread, not just through the spire, but also right down the length of the whole roof of the building. It's quite remarkable that the two stone spires at the east end there, that they managed to survive. So we don't really know why, I should say that's the west end, not the east end, apologies. We don't know why the fire started. This has never been fully documented or released, but it's believed that it was something to do with the work which was in progress at the time. Maybe a spark or an electrical fire caused it to take hold. And it's also not yet known why it took the fire services so long to be alerted. Perhaps the building could have been saved had it acted more swiftly, but that is as yet unknown. One of the advantages of the speed for the conservation was that the building had been fully scanned with a very detailed high-resolution LiDAR scan. And here we see a couple of images of them. This is something which I would encourage all churches, cathedrals, anyone with a higher status building, well, anyone with any building really, but it's particularly valuable to those of higher status where there is extraordinary amount of history and significance going into the materials and the building itself, not simply that it is a form of architecture. So with this detailed information, the building was able to be reassembled and reconstructed in breathtaking time. I mean, a little over 5 years from the fire to it being open to the public again, in a little over 5 years. It wasn't quite ready for the Paris Olympics in 2024, but it wasn't far behind it. So it's quite extraordinary. So I visited in March 2025, and I'm just going to share a few of my images now. I would encourage all of you to put it on your bucket list to go and see. It is utterly extraordinary. It is free to get into. If you pay online for a tour guide, you'll have to obviously pay that fee. And then the cathedral itself runs its own small group tours and individual tours should you wish to do that. But you don't need to. If you want to book a ticket, which you do have to do online to secure your time slot, it is free. So it is absolutely magnificent. I cannot emphasize that enough. It's been beautifully cleaned, beautifully conserved, and put back to exactly how it was. And the use of natural lighting and artificial lighting really shows it up in its glory now. And it's definitely worth going to. Here we see a few close-up images looking at some of the architecture and the sculpture. So it's absolutely magnificent. Other people have said to me that it smells different. Now that's an interesting comment, isn't it? To talk about an old building and its smell. I think what they're saying there is that the smell of the incense and candle wax probably has over the hundreds of years infused itself into the masonry. But I wasn't aware of that when I visited it in previous years, and I certainly didn't notice any difference when I visited it after the work had been completed. Just want to share these images with you of the weathercock. On the left-hand side there, we see the original weathercock, which was on top of that wooden spire that we saw in the video collapsing. On the right-hand side, this is the now replacement spire, the very top of the spire with the replacement weathercock on the top. The original one is behind a glass screen there, so you can get to see it, and you can get up quite close to it, apart from all the other tourists also trying to get up close and take their pictures, but it is there. And it probably will always be there to serve as a reminder of the tragedy in April 2019. Now, out of the tragedy, out of all tragedies that occur around the world following terrorism, warfare, and other fires and other natural disasters, one of the legacies that comes out of this, which is often not really fully appreciated or talked about, is the legacy of developing heritage skills. Those of you who might already be in the sector of building conservation or architecture or surveying will probably have already heard that there is a heritage skills shortage, and no more so than the work that was required for rebuilding of Notre Dame. Thousands and thousands of conservators had to be employed, and many of those were trained specifically to develop new skills. Here we see one of the oak framers measuring up a fallen chimney, a fallen tree trunk, not a chimney, apologise, a fallen tree trunk, which will be used to get oak for different parts of the roof and other factors that we use within the building. Here we see a couple of stonemasons on a quarry. A lot of stonework was used in the building, and they tried to do it as close to like for like as they could. I've seen some of the sculptures being made, and they were using polystyrene replica molds, which they could then copy and do in full size. And it's extraordinary amount of effort and detail went into it. But perhaps the legacy from the fire for those men and women involved in oak framing is perhaps one of the most significant benefits. Oak framing is definitely a skills which is in considerable demand and considerable shortage of trainees to learn how to do this, but also in having access to new jobs for those, because they're just simply more access to work than there are people to do that work. So one of the legacies of the fire is that thousands of people have now been trained up who, now that the project is finished, they can go off and help conserve and save other buildings, not just in France, but around the world. And this is significant benefit which should never be underestimated. So I would encourage you all to make a visit to Paris, go and have a look at Notre Dame for yourself and experience the wonder of such a magnificent example of building conservation in practice. So there you go. Hopefully you've been having your coffee and biscuits, and join me again on another coffee break conservation video where I'll give you an insight into another aspect of conservation from around the world. Please do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and look out for other things that we're doing on our website, cbcstudies.com.